Aloha, and welcome to Wind in Your Hair. Authentic talk, real breakthroughs in love and life, guaranteed no BS, and the life you want most, starting right now. Aloha, and welcome to Wind in Your Hair. I'm Anna, your host, and today's a solo episode for the people who continually end up in unfulfilling, unsatisfying relationships. This is about why we ignore red flags and we downgrade them to yellow flags. This is so important for you to learn this concept and apply it to your life today. It's not hard. It really comes down to you valuing yourself and even knowing what your values are and what your red flags are, your non-negotiables, really knowing yourself on a deeper level so that you make the decisions. You're the chooser. You don't let people choose you. You choose, so that you can stop the cycle of unhealthy relationships. If you keep meeting someone and then get really excited and there's high chemistry, and then a few months later you just feel in your gut like something's off here, something's not right, then this episode is for you. Most people see the red flags and they choose to ignore them. They justify them, and then they slowly paint them into yellow flags just to be able to accept it. Most people don't end up in the wrong relationship because they didn't see the red flags. They saw them. You saw them. I saw them. I was married once before for 16 years. And I remember so clearly back then, I didn't really know what I was feeling. I didn't know the term red flags. I was 29, yes, but I was very naive. I grew up under a rock on the North Shore of Oahu, which is in Hawaii. I saw the red flags, but I 100% justified them. And we'll get into that more later. At the beginning of this relationship, especially ones with high chemistry, you kind of notice the little things that jump out at you. And I wrote a list here of things that I noticed in my relationship. The inconsistency, the weird comments, the lack of follow through, the subtle disrespect, the crossing boundaries, the feeling that something is just slightly off. But instead of honoring that instinct, people justify it. And they start explaining it away. And then they settle. It's exactly what I did. And we say things like, maybe I'm overreacting. Or, maybe this is just as good as it gets. Maybe my expectations are too high. Or maybe they're just having a bad day. Or maybe this is how they were raised. Or maybe I'm being high maintenance. And slowly the red flags become something that you tolerate. And we're going to get into behind the psychological aspects of why we just begin to tolerate these red flags and what that means about us. I love this stuff, so get your pen and paper and get ready to take some notes. The first thing I want to talk about is chemistry versus compatibility, something I didn't even know about before I got married. I felt the chemistry, and I'm sure you have felt chemistry in relationships before that you're no longer in, or maybe you're in it, but it's just not what you thought it was going to be. Versus compatibility. Compatibility is what we want to aim for. Without compatibility, you do not have a relationship. If you're in a situationship and it's just kind of suffering because there's no compatibility, but maybe there is chemistry, or maybe the chemistry is just slowly fizzled out and now you have neither, but you're just stuck in this relationship because you don't know what else to do and you don't have the courage to do what you know deep down in your heart you're supposed to be doing. Chemistry feels very powerful. I've had high chemistry with most of my relationships. And one of the biggest reasons people ignore red flags is because of chemistry. That dopamine hit, the feeling of butterflies and excitement, and this person is maybe even love bombing, but you don't know it's love bombing. And for anyone who doesn't know, love bombing is when someone swoops in and they bomb you with a bunch of love. I'm putting love in quotes for those who are just listening to this. When you think about love bombing, you think, is this sustainable? Is what this person's doing every single day, is this sustainable? Because it's just something that they're pretty much going to do for maybe 2 weeks, maybe 2 months, but it's not sustainable and it's not a healthy relationship. Chemistry feels powerful, like I said. It's excitement, the emotional intensity, the strong attraction and thinking about someone all the time. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with those things at all. But again, it's not sustainable, right? You're never going to have butterflies the whole time and the excitement and the emotional intensity. That's going to die down. And when it dies down, what else do you have left to hold on to? What other foundation is your relationship built on besides chemistry? When something is new and uncertain, the brain releases dopamine, right? And uncertainty can create emotional highs and lows, which the brain interprets as excitement. But the thing about chemistry doesn't tell you whether someone's compatible or not. You have to look at the data. You have to look at the facts. And the word that I love to use now is patterns. The patterns are so important. Now, chemistry does not tell you things like whether someone is emotionally available. So when I first met my ex-husband, I had no idea that he was completely emotionally unavailable. Like, to a certain level, he was emotional, he would cry on certain movies, but the emotional depth that is needed to take a relationship long term and for both of you to feel like you really know each other and connect on a deep level, that emotional availability wasn't there. And whether they share your values. So values are learned through time also, and through kind of trial and error and through experiences, especially when you experience something that's challenging. Then people's true colors shine. And whether they are consistent, because I only knew my ex-husband for 5 months before we got married. I remember my dad saying, you never really know someone that well after 5 months. And I was like, Dad, he's a good guy. We got this. I was 100% wrong. I didn't know anything about narcissism, alcoholism, or the dismissive avoidant attachment style when I was 29. I was also a single mother. I was kind of in survival mode. I didn't really realize it. I thought I was good. I had a job. I had my real estate license. I was on my own with my 3-year-old son. But deep down, I was like, I'm ready for some stability and some emotional and financial support, even though he was only in the army. He didn't make a ton of money. But I thought, he's really good to my son, so let's just do this. And you also don't realize whether they're capable of building a healthy relationship. Compatibility is very, very different. Compatibility is about shared values and consistency and emotional maturity and integrity. Integrity is doing the right thing even when no one's looking. It's about communication, which we lacked, and having a similar vision for life, which we totally lacked. And it's interesting, dismissive avoidance, they have a hard time really looking inward and having self-reflection and thinking about the vision for their life and the deeper lying issue of what they were created for. For them, they usually become workaholics and avoiding any type of depth in relationships or feelings, including the relationship with themselves. So they might be extremely successful, hardworking, kicking ass at their job, making a ton of money. When it comes to having emotional depth and understanding what your vision and your true purpose is, it's lacking in that type of relationship, which for someone like me, it's very unfulfilling and frustrating to say the least. Chemistry creates attraction, but compatibility creates stability. So I'm going to say that one more time. Chemistry creates attraction, but compatibility creates stability. And for any of you who've experienced a relationship with no stability, it's painful and it's a waste of time. It's exhausting. I decided that I needed to be really aware of the chemistry that I encountered with the men that I met. And I note to self, just because it's high chemistry, it doesn't mean that it's safe. It doesn't mean that it's the right thing or it's even a good thing. With my ex-husband, there was high chemistry. There was excitement. There was the butterflies. And I thought there were shared values, but it turned out to be a disaster. And I remember we got married after 5 months. 5 weeks later, he got deployed to Iraq for 15 months. And he came back halfway through for R&R, rest and relaxation. And I remember having this come to God moment. And I was like, oh dear Lord, what have I done? But I thought, you know what, I'm going to stick it through. Divorce was not an option back then. I thought we can make this work. We're two intelligent human beings who love God. We will sacrifice. We will deny ourselves. We will do what the therapist and the marriage counselors tell us to do in order to have better communication and more trust. And everything went in one ear and out the other. And I don't say this to throw them under the bus. I just want people who are in my same situation to understand what they're really going through and what their options are. Because people who are dismissive avoidant, they are not going to dig deep into their soul to know themselves better and to let you in. And people who are alcoholic, who will not stop drinking for anyone or any reason, even if it's to save their marriage, they do not know how to have a relationship with God, themselves, or other people. And the people who are narcissists, that's just a fast way to say they struggle with lying, with accountability, with empathy. The list goes on. And so why chemistry makes people ignore red flags. Do not be duped, people. Do not be duped. When chemistry is strong, people start to negotiate their standards. But the hard part is a lot of people don't even know what their standards are. I mean, I didn't. Going into relationships, I didn't have this mental checklist of, okay, what do I value? What do I stand for? What are my non-negotiables? These are things that people notice early on, but they choose to ignore. And this is what I ignored in my marriage. Inconsistent communication, lack of effort, emotional unavailability, jealousy or controlling behavior, disrespect disguised as humor, and someone who avoids accountability. So back to the standards, you need to know what you value. So I value authenticity, integrity, honesty, health and fitness, faith, adventure. I would never date somebody who sat on their ass and watched TV every day. That would be hard for me to deal with because I'm like, hey, let's go play. Let's go get wind in our hair. Or let's just chill by the pool and we'll work together. I'm a quality time person. Sure, if you want to sit down for a little while, but if you are consistently in the routine of 1 hour a day watching TV, like, I'm not the girl for you. I would never date anybody who didn't have a relationship with Jesus, who ate fast food often, who didn't work out, who didn't tell the whole truth or withheld information, who wasn't consistent with their communication and straightforwardness. I value people who are straightforward, who just get right to the truth, right to the point without sugarcoating or beating around the bush, or someone who doesn't take accountability. Instead of stepping back, people start explaining the red flags. And we're going to get into why you do that. We say things like, oh, they're just busy. You know, they just got out of a hard relationship. Or, you know, that's just how they were raised. They didn't really have a dad. Their dad was alcoholic. Or they'll change once they feel secure. Or, but they have just such amazing potential. Or they're just shy. Or they weren't taught that. I can teach them that. And this is where many people get stuck. So they stop evaluating the relationship and looking at the data and the facts and the the P word, patterns. And they start evaluating based on the hope. This is the hope that I'm going to have this amazing relationship with this person and we're going to have fun together and we're going to communicate. And you paint this fantasy in your head that is nothing like it is in real life, nor will it ever be in the future. You're just with the wrong person. You're not aligned, simply. So why do you stay with a person you're not aligned with? Well, because you're dating the potential, but we'll get into that. The rule of thumb is 100% you cannot date potential. You're not dating potential, you're dating their patterns. So think about that. One of the most common mistakes people make in relationships is falling in love with potential, which is another word as a fantasy. I mean, think about it. We are nuts to be in love with a fantasy. We just must be complete morons if that's what we're doing. And I'm speaking for myself. We look at someone and we think, wouldn't it be just so amazing if they were like this, or if they did that, or if they had this job, or so if they made this amount of money, or wouldn't it be so amazing if they really were able to lead me like a masculine man should? I know who they could become. I know what kind of relationship we could have if only they did this. But relationships are not built on potential at all. Good relationships are built on compatibility, commitment, and consistency. Because if you have all those three things, you can create chemistry. You can create polarity, which is the masculine, feminine energy. You can create attraction. Relationships are not built on potential, they're built on patterns. If those patterns are negative or toxic or unhealthy in any way, you are laying a rocky, sandy foundation. This is what I told a friend of mine who's in a toxic marriage, trying to save it, and what they have is not sustainable at all. And I know without a doubt, unless they both have a come to Jesus moment, which is not going to happen when you're married to a narcissist and a dismissive avoidant. And I don't mean to be a negative person about it, but it's inevitable. That type of relationship is not going to last. And it's like they're holding on to these little thin strings, just trying to hold this up. And the strings are going to snap because there is no strong foundation. There's no compatibility. There's not real commitment. It's based on finances. And there's no real trust. Patterns are the behaviors that people consistently show you. And patterns show up early, within the first date. And some examples that I wrote were how someone communicates in general, but then also how someone communicates during conflict is so key. Now, whether their words match their actions, I'm a huge advocate of people who say what they mean and mean what they say. I'm also an 8 on the Enneagram. So if any of you know what that is, we wear our heart on our sleeve. What you see is what you get. We say what we mean and we mean what we say. Their patterns show up whether they follow through with their commitments and whether they take responsibility for their mistakes. That is a huge one. I've encountered a few conversations lately where men do not want to take responsibility. And it's wild to see it in action, and that I'm not duped by that anymore. It's so clear to me what they're doing and how incredibly insecure they are. So instead of taking responsibility for something that they said or did, they will tiptoe around and they will deflect it with philosophical and spiritual soup. It's wild. I call it that because they're trying to sound intelligent and they're just not. You know what comes across so loud and clear? It's like on a megaphone. I'm freaking insecure and I want to just protect my fragile ego. Good luck with that. Potential is a future version of someone that exists in your imagination. Ask yourself something right now. You're with somebody and you realize, if you're being honest, you are dating their potential. You are dating a future version of that person in your imagination. How's that working for you? And patterns are the version of them that exist in reality. You are dating the patterns that exist in reality, but you're living on this imagination of what they could be in the future. And healthier relationships are built on things like trust and consistency and direct and honest communication. Accountability is huge, and emotional safety. Men, women crave emotional safety more than probably anything in this entire world. And when someone repeatedly shows you their pattern, that's the information that you have to pay attention to. And that's why I say pay attention to the data. Pay attention to the facts. Pay attention to the patterns. Let's talk about the next thing, about the psychology behind looking for someone to complete us. I hear this often, and it sounds great in the Hallmark movies, but in real life, if you need someone to complete you, what happens when that person leaves? And there's a 60-70% chance that person's going to leave you, especially if it's your first marriage. And I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but it's just the facts. It's the data. Most people who enter a first marriage don't know the F what they're doing. They are clueless. And they're so excited it's their first marriage. Maybe this is the first person who proposed to them. And there's all the chemistry and the high dopamine. And they think we're making all these amazing promises to each other. But if it's your first marriage and you don't know anything about attachment styles or narcissism or addiction, and there's any of that in the relationship, then you are doomed. I'm just saying, open your eyes. 60 to 70% of people get divorced. And then the other, 20 to 30% are the people who just remain in loveless marriages for sex or kids or money? So if you need someone to complete you, that's not a healthy way to live. That's not an empowered way to live. This is the idea and this is the plan. We become complete on our own. We have our own life. We know what our purpose is. We have hobbies. We have goals. We have a vision for our life. We are completely fine and content being alone. And there's something very empowering about being able to be alone. And then once we are secure in ourselves and we know what we bring to the table, when somebody comes along, we are going to be aligned with them, and then they're going to be a bonus to our lives. It's like the icing on the cake. I do want to warn you that there will be times somebody will come into your life that you think you're aligned with, but there's a chance you may not be. So don't be duped. You have to look deep. You have to look at the patterns. You have to look at their values, how they spend their time to see if you're compatible. People want somebody to complete them for a variety of reasons. I'm going to read the list off to you. They feel insecure about themselves. And that's kind of how I felt in my marriage. I was insecure about myself. Being a single mom, I didn't have any nunchuck skills. That's from Nacho Libre, but I didn't have a proper education. I just was modeled. I waited tables when I was younger. What else? I worked at a ranch. I had my real estate license. And people don't know how to meet their own emotional needs. This is huge. So I won't go deep into it, but there's 6 basic human needs everybody has. And I'm not talking about food and shelter and clothing. I'm talking about contribution and significance, the need for uncertainty, the need for certainty, the need for growth, and the need for love and connection. Now, everybody might have a little bit of that and some more than others. But for example, I have a human need for uncertainty, for growth, and for significance. Those are like my top 3 human needs, but then also love and connection. And so people don't know how to meet their own needs. So they look to others to do that for them. But that's always going to be a disaster, and you will always be left depending on other people to do something that they were never meant to do. So you need to learn to meet your needs. Now, I meet my own need for uncertainty by getting wind in my hair, going out and exploring and going places all by myself, having the courage to push myself outside my comfort zone. That's meeting one of my needs. Or for growth. So I'm constantly investing into courses and books and audiobooks and podcasts and studying and learning and always trying to figure out how I can do something more efficiently and becoming a better version of myself. And then another need for significance. I know that I was put on this earth to add value and impact other people's lives. And so that significance is a way for me to post my free content on social media. Another thing is they don't have a strong, so people who feel like want others to compete them, oh my gosh, people who want others to complete them, they don't have a strong sense of identity. Who are you? I'm not talking about your job title. I'm not talking about if you're a mom or a husband. For the longest time, I asked this question, God, what is my identity? What does that even mean? And I pondered that for a long time. Quick backstory. I was raised in a non-denominational Christian home. I accepted Christ into my heart when I was 5. I've been a Christian my whole life, but just really recently learned what it meant to have true peace and trust in Christ. So, snapshot of my spiritual life. And I learned that identity is something that cannot be taken away from you. God forbid I could lose my children. I'm no longer a mother. God forbid I could lose my face. I'm no longer going to model. God forbid I lose my voice. How am I going to share healing messages with people? I'm no longer a speaker. I know now without a doubt my identity is I'm a daughter of the Most High God. My salvation is eternally sealed in Christ. That will never be taken from me. There's nothing I could do. There's a verse in the Bible that says nothing can separate you from the love of Christ ever once you are His. And He created everybody. He has a purpose and a plan for every single person, but not everybody knows that. And so that's my identity. And I am so secure in that. It's a very empowering feeling to know what your identity is and that it can never be taken from you. Another thing is they don't have their own passions or hobbies. Oh my goodness. Can I just teach you how to have fun and get wind in your hair? It's like my specialty. People need to have passions and hobbies in order to be magnetic, first of all, and interesting. I'll usually interview my Uber drivers just because I'm curious about people. And it's interesting the conversations we'll have with Uber drivers who don't have much of a life. And when I say, so what do you do for fun? I love this question. People automatically think I'm going to say, what do you do for work? And they'll say, I just, I, I watch TV and I out to eat a lot. I go out to eat. I'm like, sounds fun. I love that. So how's that working for you? A lot of people do not have fun. They sit on their ass and they watch TV. Let me vent for 30 seconds. Most of you will not agree with me, but there's a book called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And he has a conversation with the devil about one of the tools that Satan uses to distract people and to get them to drift. Drifting is a big problem, especially in America. And it's a way that gets you so far off from your purpose and so far off course from where you could be. And one of the tools Satan uses in people's lives is dun 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 TV. So TV is really a tool Satan uses to keep you distracted and focusing on other people's lives instead of living your own and wasting a whole lot of freaking time. I think most people watch 2 hours of TV a day. And I have 3 TVs in my house. The kids turn them on sometimes, but I've never turned them on because I have a life that I love, that I'm living, that I'm investing in. And nobody, no crude, crass, stupid show is going to steal that from me. You need to have hobbies. You need to have your own life and your own passions. And if you don't have one yet, this is your homework for this week. Go out and get a freaking hobby. Play pickleball. Let's move on. And they feel lonely or unfulfilled in their life. So if you need someone to fulfill you or to complete you, it's because you do not feel complete on your own. And that's a shame. So we're going to change that today. Today, you are complete on your own. Whether you believe it or not, I'm speaking life into you right now. You are complete on your own. That's how God made you. Everything that you need is already inside you. It's probably buried under years of pain and hurt and disappointment and discouragement. And then also, you can tap into the God of the universe who has everything you could possibly need. Stop saying you want someone to complete you or make you look better. That's enough. Put that in the trash. And when somebody comes along, you're going to vet them. You're going to see if you're compatible. You're going to check out their patterns. You're going to see if you're aligned. And then if they are, then you can invite them into your life as a bonus. That's how it's going to work from now on. Okay, friends? So if you are not complete on your own, you look to other people to provide these things for you, and people will always disappoint us and they will always let us down 100%. You can count on that. And that's okay because people were not meant to be God in our lives. They hope the relationship will give them happiness, fulfillment, peace, identity, validation, stability. Quick side note on marriage. Marriage is not meant to make you happy. It's meant to make you holy. Sit with that for a minute. If you got married because that person makes you happy, well, soon they will not make you happy. But marriage will allow you to learn to be holy if you allow it. Marriage is so, so hard. It's about constantly dying to yourself and learning how to love others well. And if you can't do that, then you shouldn't be married. People who look to others for happiness, stability, etc., that creates a dynamic where someone feels like they need the relationship to feel whole. Think about that. Is that what you're doing? And when someone believes they need the relationship to feel whole, they are much more likely to tolerate behavior that they normally wouldn't accept. Back when I was married and I had a son, I thought, okay, I'll get married and he will complete our family. That was a huge mistake. Yes, I had 2 beautiful kids from it, but I look back now, and of course, removing my kids from the situation, I think about this often. Was that God's best for me? No. We are humans. We have free will. We can make our own decisions, just like Adam and Eve did in the Bible. I chose to marry that person for all the wrong reasons, and God allowed me. And there's a verse that says, Romans 8:28, God causes all things to work together for the good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. So yes, God used those 13 years that we actually lived together, whatever you want to call it, the covenant we had on paper, he used those things for the good in my life to bring me where I am today. Looking back now, if God had said, you can marry this person for all the wrong reasons, or you can wait and you can put your full trust in me and you can heal. And when the time is right, I will bring the right man along. I mean, of course I would have wanted to choose the second option, but I wasn't that mature. I wasn't that emotion regulated. Healthy relationships work differently. And when two whole people come together, each person already has their own full life, their own identity, their own stability, their own interests, their own purpose. You're not looking to someone else to give you a purpose, and their own emotional stability. Then the relationships become something that enhances your life, not something that fills an empty space. I would never want anyone to fill an empty space in my life anymore. In closing, when you look back at most of the unhealthy relationships, the red flags were there from the beginning, right? They just weren't taken seriously, and we justified it because we didn't want to be alone, which is never a good reason to be in an unhealthy relationship. It's okay being alone. And I'm telling you this right now, go check out my previous podcast when I lived in Nashville. It's called The Season of Solitude. That season of solitude was the best season of my life, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. God did such an amazing work, and I did become a lot stronger on my own. I didn't have my ex-boyfriend. I didn't have my children. I didn't have my best friends. I didn't even have my purpose. I was completely stripped of everything that I held dear. And God did an amazing work in return and healed me. Not completely. There'll always be things that pop up, but for the most part, healed a big part of my childhood wounds. Learning that I was more than okay alone made me feel strong and confident. And it's something that I want for you. If you haven't experienced that, I truly encourage you, if you're alone and you're thinking about getting into a relationship just because that's what you're used to and all your friends are in relationships, don't. Say, you know what? I'm going to see what it's like to be single, and I promise you, you will not regret it. It's going to make you a better person. When the red flags weren't taken seriously, the chemistry pulls you in. It's like a drug. And it's like the worm dangling off of the hook. It's like, don't do it. Don't go for it. You're going to get hooked, and it's going to cause you a lot of pain. Compatibility is what actually sustains a relationship, like I said before. And when you start paying attention to the patterns instead of their potential, everything about the way you choose a partner changes. It's like one of my dear friends says to me, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. You stop asking, how strong is the chemistry? Like, are they good kissers? Are they good in bed? That needs to go into the trash. That mindset is only going to bring you heartache and pain. There are so many more fulfilling, deep, satisfying things in a relationship besides sex. Yes, when you have good sex, oh my goodness. Like, okay, I could not imagine. I've been in a sexless marriage before, so I can't imagine. But I will never settle for anything less. That's why I feel like I'm doomed. I'm just doomed. Instead of asking how strong is the chemistry, you start asking, are our values aligned? And is this person consistent? And do their actions match their words? Are we compatible? Do we like doing the same things? You don't have to love doing everything the same. But for the most part, you want that person to be your best friend. Like, you want to go play with them and be childlike and giggle and laugh and get wind in your hair and be able to play the same sports together. I just assume everybody plays sports. Some of you may not play sports. Maybe you like museums. I love museums. Maybe you like aquariums. I love aquariums. I love me a good aquarium and a good zoo, but aquariums more. It's like aquarium, zoo, definitely aquarium. I'm from Hawaii. I love water. It doesn't have to be sports. It could be anything, but have something that you guys can dig into and explore and study and learn about together and grow. If you don't have fun together, you can't laugh genuinely and authentically together. You don't feel like you could be yourself around that person. You feel like you're walking on eggshells. Like, when is the next bomb gonna blow? Or you feel like you can't really trust that person. Maybe they're doing something behind your back. You could just, because of the patterns, right? Or you feel like this person is not adding any value to our life. They're just taking. They just want to take and take and take, and they're not wanting to build something strong and substantial here for the long term, where we're both investing in each other, both curious about each other's passions and hobbies. And on top of that, being able to say, I think this trait is very, very attractive. When someone can come to you and say, could I use your help? Could I use your support? Could you pray for me? Could you help walk me through this? Could you give me some advice? I love that. It's almost like a mentorship. And I know to some people that might seem boring, but this is just how my brain works. When you can look up to that person and know that they have your best interest in mind and they're going to steer you the right way and always try and help you level up and speak straight to you and champion you. When you know you can just trust that person with your life, it's just an amazing thing. And it's sad that most people don't get to experience that. I personally wouldn't want to be in a relationship where I just feel so independent that I don't turn to my spouse to ask them for any sort of support that I need, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Somebody who has your corner and who says, I see your vision, I see where you want to go, and I want to go there with you, like whatever it takes. I love that. I hope that you found some value in this episode. Okay, recap. People see the red flags, but you ignore them and you downgrade them to yellow flags because you don't want to be alone, or because you don't have your own life or your own hobbies or your own passions or your own purpose, and you're looking for someone to complete you. And you're looking for that chemistry. Chemistry is what attracts you, but it's the compatibility that creates stability. Moving forward, we're not going to be sucked in by the chemistry. We're going to be sucked in by the compatibility if there is any. We're going to ask good questions like, what are the patterns? What are their consistencies? What's their communication like? If there's red flags, you're hightailing it out of there. People need to break up faster. People would have a lot less pain and issues and less single mothers if people just broke up faster when they feel that feeling in their gut that says something about this is off. That is your gut. I needed to learn how to listen to my gut more. Or you could also say it's the Holy Spirit. If the Holy Spirit lives in you, then that's the Holy Spirit saying, exit. Exit quickly. Grab your stuff and just exit. I'm going to end with that. I love you guys, and I hope that you get some wind in your hair this week. So that means you can literally, physically go get wind in your hair, roll down the windows. But really what I'm talking about is pushing yourself outside your comfort zone and doing something that you are uncomfortable with. And being brave, having the hard conversation, not being afraid of confrontation, going and doing something by yourself, be alone, break up with the person if you feel that's what you need to do. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from an unhealthy relationship and you just trust God. He has a better plan for you. God does not want you to suffer in a loveless, unfulfilling relationship. You're doing that to yourself because you are insecure and you're looking for someone to complete you. So knock that shit off. And I'll see you next week. Aloha.